This part is related to the devilish father who betrayed his wife and committed a major crime against his innocent wife and two young children. The facts of this case will shock you, so stay tuned until the end of this video. Shannon and Chris met 2 years after Shannon had just separated from his first wife. They agreed to meet, and in 2012 they got married. In 2013 they moved to Colorado due to Chris' job, and in December of the same year their first daughter Bella was born. In July 2015 their second daughter Cece was born. Friends, family, and acquaintances described Shannon and Chris's relationship very well, saying they had no problems and Chris was a very good father to the children. In May 2018, Shannon became pregnant with their third child. Shannon decided to reveal her positive pregnancy test to Chris on her Facebook Live to capture his reaction. But Chris didn't react the way she expected. He seemed very disturbed and behaved quite normally, as if he wasn't happy about the news. After this incident, neighbors said that the sound of arguing and fighting started coming from Shannon and Chris's house, and they would often hear loud shouting at night. The situation continued like this, and Shannon decided to go on a 6-week vacation to her parents' house with her 2 daughters, which was quite a distance away, requiring a planned journey. Chris took advantage of this situation, with his wife and children not being at home, and committed adultery. Chris had a colleague named Nicole who seemed to have a crush on Chris, and they were becoming increasingly intimate at work. Chris seemed somewhat happy about the distance from Shannon. During this time, Chris never called Shannon, and whenever she called or texted him, he neither responded very late or behaved very coldly. Shannon realized this and felt something was wrong. She sensed that something was going on and suspected Chris was cheating. On July 7th, Chris called Shannon and apologized to her, but he spoke to her very coldly. During this time, Chris and Nicole were traveling together and spending a lot of time together. A few weeks later, Chris texted Shannon telling her he wanted a divorce and didn't want their third children. Shannon was shocked and said they could work things out, but Chris had made up his mind. On July 18th, Chris and Nicole exchanged some explicit photos and continued their intimacy. Chris had a folder on his phone where he kept all the pictures Nicole sent him. Despite knowing that Chris was married with a family, Nicole didn't care. On July 28th, Chris and Nicole went on a short vacation. Shannon and her children returned home, and Shannon's friend knew everything because Shannon was very upset and confided in her. On the same day, between 2 a.m. and 5:30 a.m., it's unclear what happened between Shannon and Chris. However, neighbors say that during this time, Shannon and Chris were arguing loudly, and the sound of their argument could be heard. At 5:30 a.m., a neighbor's security camera recorded Chris taking his car to the garage, which was very unusual because neighbors say Chris never did this before. He didn't want Shannon to know that the car was in the garage because it seemed like the car was leaking oil. At 8 a.m., Shannon's friend called her several times but got no response. she got worried and went to Shannon's house with her son. When they arrived at Shannon and Chris's house, they knocked. But no one answered. Shannon and Chris's house had an alarm system that would send a notification to Chris when someone rang the doorbell and it wasn't answered. A notification went to Chris's phone saying someone was at the door. Shannon's friend called Chris, asking where Shannon and the kids were. Chris said not to worry. They were supposed to go somewhere for the children to play, but Shannon's car was in the garage. The friend contacted the police and waited for Chris to arrive because it took a while. Eventually, the police contacted Chris and said, "Give me the garage password so we can enter. If you allow us, we'll enter." Chris said the garage code was broken and they had to wait for him to arrive. When Chris arrived, he acted very calmly, as if his wife and children were not missing, as if they were just lost or something.
How you been? Nicole?
Yes.
What's going on?
He quickly did what he had to do, opened the garage door and didn't ask any questions. From that moment on, the police suspected him because why wouldn't he be worried about his wife and children being missing? They entered the house and noticed Shannon's personal belongings there, along with her phone. They realized she hasn't left the house, and the bed lines are missing, indicating they've been removed. The police suspect foul play and the investigations begins. Chris is interrogated and he smiles throughout. They subject him to a lie detector test, which reveals he's lying. The police look for evidence.
So, it was completely clear that you were not honest during the testing, and I think you already know that.
I didn't lie to you on that polygraph, I promise. Chris, I know. Stop. Just stop for a minute. Take a deep breath.
There's a reason you're so sick to your stomach. We're not here to play games. We're not here to do any of that with you. We just want to know what happened. It's not even an option right now because you did not pass the polygraph, so I know you were being...
The FBI gets involved and they check Chris's car's GPS, discovering he went to work. When they go to Chris's workplace, they find the missing bed linens. When asked, Chris claims ignorance, which seems ridiculous because the police's only suspect was Chris. They pressure him to confess, telling him if he confesses now, he'll get a lighter sentence. But Chris doesn't comply. All Chris wants from the police is to see his father. So they bring his father and take them to a room where the conversation is recorded. Chris's father asks him, "Did you do something? Did you harm them?" Chris calmly whispers, "Yes, I killed them." Finally, Chris confesses to killing his wife. They ask him to reveal where the bodies are, and Chris instructs them to go on his workplace. There, among large oil tanks, Chris buried his wife between them and threw his two daughters into another tank. The strange thing is that these tanks were very small, so Chris had to break their bones to force their bodies inside. After finding the bodies of Shannon and the children, it becomes clear that Shannon was strangled and the children were suffocated by closing their respiratory passages, meaning he placed his hands over their mouths and noses to suffocate them. When the children's bodies were removed from the tank, Their skin was completely peeled off due to being in the oil for so long. On November 6, Chris was sentenced to life in prison, but Nicole's name was never mentioned, even though she was the one who caused this family to fall apart.
I mean, right now I don't even want to just like throw anything out there. Like, I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids.
The case was closed.
If you're into crime stories and documentaries, subscribe to our channel because we'll be posting loads of videos every day.